I don't know about you guys, but it really feels like the NASCAR season has been flying by so far. As of the Bristol night race on Easter Sunday night, well, it's been a quarter of the way through the season. And right now, what I want to do is go back and look at the top 30 teams and grade them at the quarter mark. I'm giving out report cards, just like in school. Starting off with Trackhouse Racing. Trackhouse has two drivers, Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez. Let's start off with Chastain. Chastain in 9 starts has a win and 5 top 5s, which are all of his top 10s. He's led 156 laps, and he's been looking really, really good this year. Chastain has been probably the most improved driver since 2021, and that's probably in large part to the fact that Trackhouse seems to be getting its footing much more than Ganassi did last year. Either way, though, Chastain has been impressive. He's been good at all different types of tracks. He's won, of course, at COTA, and then he's run well at intermediates, flat tracks, road courses, short tracks, super speedways. Doesn't matter. He's been really good at everything. So I'm going to give Chastain right now an A on the season. Not an A+, but an A. Now, Daniel Suarez. Suarez has shown flashes of brilliance this year. While not as good as Chastain, he still is definitely in the playoff hunt. He has a 17th place average, which is about 2 spots below Chastain, and only 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s. No wins this year, but Suarez has been running better a lot of times than his results show. I don't think that he by any means is better than an average driver right now, but he's definitely in the higher end, so I'm going to give him a C+. And overall, Trackhouse gets a B+. Moving on to Team Penske. Team Penske has Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano. Austin Cindric so far has gotten the only win for Team Penske with the Daytona 500 this year, and it's also been his only top 5. He also got a top 10 at COTA, but overall has been kind of running in the teens for most of the season, which isn't that bad. He's still playoff eligible at the moment, even if he didn't have a win. And on top of that, he runs about how a rookie should. Right now, he's just getting seat time. So for me, even though there's not too much to talk about, the win itself getting him in, and then the fact that he would still be in the playoffs at the moment without the win, to me, means that he gets a B. Ryan Blaney, on the other hand, has been one of the most consistent drivers out there, getting 4 top 5s and 6 top 10s, and he currently sits second in points, leading well over 300 laps at this point already. He's one of only a few drivers this year who is on track to lead over 1,000 laps, so right now, you can see where the speed is at. With an 11th place average, he's one of the best and most consistent, like I was saying earlier. And he, like Chastain, also has been running well at different tracks, no matter what kind of layout. So while he doesn't have a win, I still think he can easily have an A. Joey Logano is about right with him. He has 1 less top 5 and 1 less top 10 than Blaney, and a little bit lower average finish, and he hasn't led as many laps. But at the same time, he is still easily in the top 5 in points. He's over a race above the cut line already, and for the most part, he's run how Joey Logano usually runs. The lack of a win, again, means he can't get an A+ by any means, but I do think, again, like Blaney, Logano gets an A. So with all of this right here, averaged together, I'd say Team Penske gets an A- so far in the year. Moving on now to Richard Childress Racing. This is another team who has run much better than the results show, but at the same time, when they don't show up, they're really off. Austin Dillon is the star driver, at least in the owner's eyes, with 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s. He has run pretty good this year, but at the same time, when he runs bad, he runs pretty bad. His top 5s were at Auto Club in Martinsville, which are very talent-based tracks, and his top 10s outside of that were at Richmond and COTA, again, very talent-based. So when he's able to get the most out of the car, Austin Dillon does pretty good. But sitting 17th in points and leading only 2 laps on the year, I would say he gets a C+. Not good enough for a B, but definitely on the high end of the C's again. Now his teammate Tyler Reddick, on the other hand, has been doing much better. Reddick is somebody that a lot of us are looking at as an outside championship contender. The thing with Reddick is he needs to get wins. Obviously, he hasn't won a race in his career, so he hasn't won a race this year. And he's gotten top 5s, he's run up front, he's competed for wins, led almost 200 laps this year, and is easily in the playoffs at the moment. But due to lack of wins and where he is in points, I cannot give him an A. A B+ is where Tyler Reddick will stay. And Richard Childress Racing as a whole gets a B, which is much better than they were the last couple years. Next up is Trackhouse Racing, one of probably the most confusing teams of the last few years. We'll start off with the most tenured driver in Kevin Harvick. Harvick doesn't have a win this year, and his only top 5 he got was because of strategy at Richmond. His top 10s at Auto Club and Phoenix were pretty good, seeing how, again, more talent-based tracks, but when he only gets a top 10 at one of his best tracks in Phoenix, it's kind of an area of concern. He hasn't led many laps, he's averaged a 15th place finish, and he's very close to the playoff cutoff line right now. So while he's in the playoffs, he can't really be that bad, but at the same time, not that good either. He's just kind of average this year. So I'm going to give Kevin Harvick a C+. Next up, Aric Almirola. Almirola started off with a very consistent start of the year, even leading the points early on, but since then has cooled off. His only top 5 is in the 500, and he hasn't scored many top 10s since the start of the year. He is 12th in points ahead of Kevin Harvick, but at the same time, he's not that much more ahead. But seeing how much he has improved over 2021, I gotta say that Almirola does get a B+, which will be the highest grade of probably anyone on this team. Chase Briscoe is right behind him. He is the only one that got a win, so it's probably why it's confusing why I'm gonna give him only a B. It's because his only other top 5 is the 500, and outside of that, he's only gotten a top 10 at Martinsville. 3 top 10s in 9 races does not get you a B+ grade. His 15th place average is also an area of concern, and while he is in the top 10 in points, it seems that he's been there more because of stage points and others' attrition. So a B is where Chase Briscoe can sit. Now, the guy who's pulling up the rear is Cole Custer. Custer has, for lack of a better term, been downright awful. His best finish this year is 11th at Auto Club, and he's only had 4 top 20s on the year. 11th at Auto Club, like I said, 13th at Bristol, 16th at Phoenix, and 20th in the Daytona 500. He has a 21st place average, sits 23rd in points, and hasn't even led a lap. Yeah, Cole Custer, I can't say he fails because that's about where we ran last year, but he gets a D, meaning that Trackhouse Racing overall gets a C. From one 4-car juggernaut to another, we go to Hendrick Motorsports, starting off with defending champion Kyle Larson. Larson this year does have a win at Auto Club and 4 top 5s, but at the same time, outside of those top 5s, he hasn't finished in the top 10. His top 5s were at Las Vegas, Richmond, and Bristol Dirt, very talent-based tracks again, which is not surprising for Kyle Larson. But the fact that he has an average finish of 17th, which is well below all 3 of his teammates, and that the fact that he's led only 86 laps is very concerning. So, while I can't say that he's doing awful, he is, again, in the top 10 in points, I also can't say that he's doing very good. This is about how Kyle Larson ran at Chip Ganassi Racing, so I'm going to give him a B so far this year. Chase Elliott right now does not have a win, and he's the only Hendrick driver not to do that. And with only 1 top 5 at COTA, it can be questionable as to why he's been kind of off as well. But he does have 6 top 10s, meaning that he is the most consistent driver in NASCAR in that regard, or at least tied for it. And he's gotten top 10s at pretty much every kind of track. His average finish of 10th is also the highest in NASCAR right now. He has led almost 300 laps, and he's leading the points. I'm going to give Chase Elliott an A. If he gets a win, it'd be an A+ in my opinion. William Byron, on the other hand, well, he's picking up where Elliott's slacking with the wins, as he has 2 so far, which is the most in NASCAR. His 4 top 5s also mean that those are his only top 10s, and he has led more laps than pretty much anybody this year, with almost 500 at this point. Yeah, William Byron is on track to damn near lead 2,000 laps this year. He averages a 14th place finish, which is not that great, but he's sitting 4th in points. So with that, he is solidly an A driver this year. And then there's Alex Bowman, the driver who seems to go under the radar at HMS, probably because he's only led 16 laps this year. But he's got a win at Las Vegas, and then he's also got a top 5 at COTA, where he very easily could have led. He actually was kind of leading at a brief moment on the last lap of that race. He has 5 top 10s also, so he's very consistent. An 11th place average means that he's almost as good as Chase Elliott with average finish, and he's sitting 5th in points. meaning again, like his teammates, Alex Bowman solidly gets an A, as does the entire Hendrick organization. Next is not necessarily a new team, but a rebranded team in Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. Starting off with Brad Keselowski, the namesake of the organization. He only has a top 10 in the Daytona 500 this year, which is not that great, and he averages about a 17th place finish this season. His 70 laps led this year have almost primarily come from Daytona as well, and generally he hasn't been doing that well. Then you add in the penalty, which has basically set his team almost back to zero, actually below zero at one point, and now he's clawing his way back up. He currently sits 30th in points and is not really in any position whatsoever to make the playoffs unless he gets a win. If he didn't have that penalty, I'd give him probably a C, but because of that penalty, right now the 6 team is sitting in a big fat F. The 17 of Chris Buescher has not been much better in performance, only getting 1 extra top 10 to Keselowski, and he at least got one at a non-plate track at Phoenix. His 17th place average finish isn't that good, and he hasn't led a single lap this year, and he's sitting outside of the playoffs, which is kind of disappointing seeing how a lot of people thought he could be a silent threat to get in. So I'm going to give him a C, and overall, RFK gets a D on the year. Another team that people are really wondering why they're not performing like they should is Joe Gibbs Racing. Starting off with Denny Hamlin, who is the absolute worst of this team. He has one bright spot being his win at Richmond, and outside of that, he has been atrocious for Denny standards and in general. He has a 23rd place average finish and has only led 40 laps on the year and currently sits 23rd in points. If it's not for that win, we're asking if Denny Hamlin is retiring right now. Because let's be real, he has been absolutely awful. D-. You can't fail if you get a win, but you can get the next closest thing. So Denny Hamlin with a D-. Kyle Busch, on the other hand, got his first win of the year at Dirt Bristol, and he did almost win Las Vegas and has run a lot better than his results show, which is amazing because he is up near the top of the points and has 6 top 10s on the year. So Kyle Busch, while not being as elite as Kyle Busch has been in the past, still has done very good and is in the top 5 to 7 drivers this year, meaning I will give him an A- so far this year. Martin Truex Jr. is a driver who has very much been under the radar. He only has a top 5 at Richmond, where he almost got a strategy win, and then he has top 10s at Vegas, Atlanta, and Coda. His 14th place average finish is not bad by any means, but it's sort of in the middle of the road. And he has only led 97 laps, meaning that aside from Hamlin, he's led less than every other JGR car in Kyle Busch and Christopher Bell. With being 7th in the points, though, he can't be that bad. So even though he's not good for Truex standards, I can still give him a B so far this season. And then there's the aforementioned Christopher Bell. Bell has a top 5 at Coda, which is not surprising, and he also has top 10s at Vegas, Richmond, and Bristol Dirt. His 18th place average finish definitely stems from early season struggles, and leading 111 laps, he has led more laps than every other JGR car. Sitting 15th in points at the moment, though, that's not very good, so I'm going to give him a C so far. And Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole, I think it's a B-. Next is one of the new teams in Colleague Racing. Colleague has the 16 car, which is sort of the go out and get a win car, and so you'll get a few points added with the 16 nearly winning Coda with AJ Allmendinger, but the main driver, Justin Haley, has been pretty much a no-show this year. He has 2 okay finishes of an 11th at Atlanta and 14th at Bristol Dirt, but averages a flat 20th place finish, sits 25th in points, and has only led a lap this season. I didn't expect him to be that good. It's his first year with this team in Cup, so they're probably going to need to get their footing with this new car. I'll give him a C. So far, okay. Another single car team is the Wood Brothers with Harrison Burton in his first season. Harrison is another driver who has been very bad. He's been rushed up to the Cup Series, it's clear to see, and he's only had 4 top 20s on the year, D+ for the rookie and the team as a whole. Next is one of the most fascinating teams not to show up in 23XI Racing. 23XI had high hopes going into this year, as Bubba Wallace had actually ran pretty well at the end of last year comparatively, and Kurt Busch was joining the team. So far, though, an egg has been laid. Bubba Wallace has one top 5 and top 10, that being the Daytona 500. He has a 21st place average finish, has led 15 laps, has lost his crew chief, sits 22nd in points, and looks, honestly at this point, kind of worse than last year. So, pretty horrible. I'm going to give him a D- so far. Kurt Busch, on the other hand, has 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s and a 17th place average, but because of atrocious luck and finishes, is 20th in the standings and also out of the playoffs, barely ahead of Bubba Wallace. While Kurt Busch has done okay, he's gotten those top 5s at Phoenix and Atlanta and top 10s at Auto Club in Martinsville. At the same time, when that team is off, it is atrociously off. C- for the 2004 champ, and 2311 as a whole gets a D+ as well. Next up is Front Row Motorsports. Front Row Motorsports this year has been another team who's just sort of trying to get its footing. Michael McDowell, to start off with, has 2 top 10s, the 500 and Bristol Dirt, and while he doesn't have a win like last year, he generally is running where that team is expected to run. So I'll give him a C on the season. Nothing special thus far. Same goes for Todd Gilliland. He's getting a C even though he has no top 10s. He has 4 top 20s, 16th at COTA, 17th at Bristol, 19th at Phoenix, and 20th at Auto Club. Front Row as a whole gets a C. Next up is probably the most shockingly decent 2-car team this year in Petty GMS Motorsports. Starting off with Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon this year only got his first top 10 at Bristol Dirt, and he's not really led anything with 1 lap led, and he sits 21st in points. For most drivers, that's not that great, but he's been in a new team with a Petty team that has been sub 20th for the last decade, give or take. Aside from a couple here or there, most years have been pretty darn average for this team. With a 19th place average finish and Ty Dillon running up in the top 15 and top 20 more often than people want to give him credit for, I'm going to say that Ty Dillon gets a B- so far this year. Eric Jones, on the other hand, has really brought this team up in the 43 car with a top 5 at Auto Club and a top 10 at COTA. 2 very talent-based tracks, and he definitely brought that car on his back up to the front. He has a 19th place average as well and has led 21 laps, and he is in the top 20 in points at 19th. It's about the best that 43 car has run in about a decade, and he is on the border as well of the bubble cutoff line for the playoffs. So I'm going to give him a B-, and because both drivers have that, Petty GMS Motorsports has a B- on the year, which is probably much better than anyone there was expecting to get. And now for our last team, JTG. With Ricky Stenhouse Jr., that team has been not very good. With a 27th place average finish and only 42 laps led, they sit 29th in points, and he's only had 1 top 10, that being the second race of the season at Auto Club. A D- goes to both the team and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this year. Now, that's just the teams, but I think we should add 1 extra credit point to grade here, and that being the new next-gen car. The next-gen car has been pretty good so far this year, to say the least. I would say its super speedway program has shown well at Daytona, and people liked it at Atlanta. The road course program has been pretty good at COTA, and the intermediates this year have been surprisingly really good. The only con right now is the short track suffering, and that's something that needs to be fixed. They've been relatively boring in comparison when it comes to any track a mile or lower that's an oval. So with that being said, and generally about 7 of the 9 races being liked, I'm going to say the next-gen car gets a solid B, maybe even B+. A little tweaking, and this is an A car, easy. And with that, that's all I got. So what do you think? What are your grades? Are they the same as mine? Do you think I'm too generous, or do you think I'm too strict on people? Let me know down in the comments below what you think of my grades and what yours are for every team and the car. Also, while you're at it, leave a like on this video. Share this video and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. To all my channel members, thank you so much for the support. I can't do this without you. Until next time, have a good one.